I'm Nicola Talent, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the sins of the underworld. We're Ireland's top podcast for 2025, and now we've got a new website. So if you want to learn more about crime and criminals, if you want stories, extras, and podcast subscriber specials, go to www.crimeworld.com. The brothers Jim and Patrick Mansfield have been brought before the district court, charged with, in relation with money laundering, to the total amount of more than €550,000. Mansfields are obviously very well-known brothers. They were once very well-known socialites around town, and they are the sons of the late Jim Mansfield Sr., who died around 2015.
Yeah, Jim Mansfield Sr. would have been one of Ireland's biggest property developers. Certainly during the Celtic Tiger, I think he was a paper billionaire, at least at that stage. Very sort of well-connected guy. Big supporter of Fianna Fáil, actually, at the time. But he went totally bankrupt.
Built City West, owned Weston Airport. I think he was Ireland's richest man.
Yeah, he was certainly one of them anyway.
Yeah.
And he came from humble origins and, boomed with the Celtic Tiger. And then it all went wrong. He was one of a handful of those guys at the very top of the property game that were undone, I suppose, by the crash. He
had borrowed too much money and he was too exposed. He'd borrowed money, I think, from the Bank of Scotland from memory. Receivers were sent in and he lost his City West Hotel, Finnstown House Hotel, and other portions of lands that he owned sort of went into receivership. And he, as he was sort of dying and he got sick, all of that was going on in the background.
But yeah, he was a big, colourful character and would have done a number of interviews over the years where he was, a big personality, let's put it that way. And some of the reason why he was in the papers was because of his two sons, Jim Jr. and PJ, who were well-known socialites, would have appeared. I mean, this back in the heyday of the Sindo, I suppose, not really so much the Sindo now as it was, but during the Celtic Tiger, there was a number of kind of sons of rich people who would appear regularly, and they were, well-known in nightclubs and dating.
Both dated models, famous models. Jim Jr. dated the late Katie French, and PJ Mansfield dated Andrea Roach.
Yeah.
Now they lived, Jim Mansfield Jr. actually at one point lived in Blanchardstown House, which his father also owned, and would have had famous sort of parties on the roof.
Yeah.
With a jacuzzi, had a herd of llama.
And did he have emu or something?
Yeah.
Did he have some sort of, or ostriches or something?
Yeah, he had ostriches as well, yeah. So anyway, all of that was, would have been the fodder of those social pages.
Yeah.
So this morning in Dublin, the two brothers were arrested as part of an investigation by the Garda's organised crime unit into serious criminality. And they both now face 25 charges each of money laundering. And Patrick, PJ, is also charged with a further 8 counts of defrauding company investors.
Yeah, so the charges relate to a very specific amount of money at a very specific time. Jim Mansfield was arrested at 8:20 this morning, and he is charged with these kind of are quite technical offences, but it's basically possessing or using the money that is the proceeds of criminal conduct or being reckless about it. And it relates to 190,000 over a 2-year period between December 2012 and December 2014 that went through a bank account in the Bank of Ireland that was in his name. And he was granted bail, entering his own bond of 10,000, and he had to surrender his passport.
And then PJ?
PJ is charged with a total of 33 offences, and they include 25 money laundering offences for a larger sum of money, over €360,000. And again, the alleged offending occurs more or less in the same time period. December 2012 to November 2014. Again, involves a bank account in the Bank of Ireland in his own name.
And the companies that were listed on the charge sheets are Absolute Essentials Limited, Catering Team Limited, Cleanwise Limited, Gold Hill Developments, Landscape Concepts Limited, New Recruits Personnel Limited, Sun Lake Developments Limited and Taratol Communications Limited. Jim Jr.'s address is given as at Tassagart House, which is a mansion. It was the original family home that Jim Mansfield Senior lived and where he died, actually. It's beside the City West Hotel, and Jim Mansfield Jr. has been living there for some years since before his father died, actually, and obviously since.
Yeah, and of course, we actually had it in the paper recently that they were offering, that student accommodation was being offered in Saggart House.
Yeah.
So
there was a video of,
Yeah, it's a huge, obviously, mansion with a number of rooms, so don't know exactly what the circumstances, but somebody had offered, basically people to share a room and live in the house. But yeah, both people, there was a very brief hearing today. People get brought in, the charges are read. We heard that PJ Mansfield was arrested in Blanchardstown. Jim Mansfield was arrested simultaneously, both just after 8 o'clock in the morning.
And they will appear again in court on April 28th. That's as much really as we can say about the case for the moment.
Yeah, and the DPP has directed that they face trial and indictment. So yes, they'll be back again and we'll hear more.
Okay, thanks, Niall.
Thanks, Nicola.
Have you checked out our new website, crimeworld.com, where you'll find ad-free exclusive content, including our new series, The Science of Fear, about the rise and fall of Daniel Kinahan's right-hand man, Thomas Bomber Kavanagh. Subscribers can listen to all 9 parts, but for those of you not yet signed up, here's an extract from part 1. It's July 25th. Ipswich Crown Court. 3 of Ireland's most notorious criminals flicker onto the courtroom screens from prisons across England. Thomas Bomber Kavanagh appears on Zoom from Belmarsh Prison, looking surprisingly tanned and trim in a dark grey t-shirt. Beside him on the screen, his lieutenants Gary Flash Vickery and Daniel Canning appear from other prisons, fidgeting in their seats. In contrast, Kavanagh sits bolt upright, with arms folded across his chest, and listens intently in an interview room with bathroom blue walls. As a female prison guard nips in and out of Kavanagh's interview room, the exasperated judge, Justice Martin Levitt, stops proceedings to scold, "We'll just wait for Belmarsh to stop coming in and out of the room because it's interrupting us yet again." Over the morning, there are various arguments set out by wigged barristers who call each other "my learned friend" in clipped British accents. But the outcome is clear. Kavanagh has 3 months to pay back more than €1.26 million in criminal assets, or face another 12 years in prison. One by one, the court strips him of his assets: luxury watches, designer clothes, equity in a Majorcan property, rental income, cash seized by police, and even the cost of a family holiday to Cancun. And the biggest blow, his half share of a fortified Tamworth mansion, the marble-floored stronghold where he reigned like an Italian mob boss in the English Midlands. The court was told his wife, Joanne Byrne, the sister of David Byrne, who was murdered in the Regency, had not responded to a court notice. Kavanagh, sitting at a wooden desk in Belmarsh, betrays no sign of emotion at the prospect of losing the family home. But behind that blank stare is a man who once weaponised fear with precision. Police wiretaps revealed a mobster, almost scientific, in his obsession with torture, casually calculating exactly how much pain he could inflict, terrifying men into loyalty without paralysing them completely. Britain's National Crime Agency finally brought him down, jailing him for 26 years. Now, here in Ipswich Crown Court, they're dismantling what's left of his empire. And then one final twist. It appears that Bomber couldn't do his time. In a scheme that wouldn't have been out of place in a Guy Ritchie movie, Kavanagh tried to shave some time off his 21-year sentence for drug smuggling by orchestrating a plot from behind bars. Hoping to dupe authorities into handing him a lighter sentence, he tried to lead the National Crime Agency officers to a weapons stash. Instead, he was rumbled and slapped with another 6 years. We spoke to some of the NCA officers who were involved in taking Bomber down, including one who was tasked with following the money. It was a job that took him across international borders.
This particular case, I would say, was complex because we had overseas assets in Ireland and in Spain, Lanzarote, and there was also the inquiries when pulling together the investigation as well. Because there was Dutch hauliers involved. There was drugs were coming in, say, from the Netherlands. They were coming in from Spain. So there was quite a lot of international partners we were involved with when we were pulling this together. So the actual value of the drugs, which was agreed on between the prosecution and defence, eventually was 10,470,833, and that was it was 3,750,833 of cannabis and 6,720,000 pounds worth of cocaine. The benefit figure for Thomas, with all the other assets involved, we agreed on just over 12 million of benefit from his criminality. And we started off somewhere around 15, 16 million. So we've come down about 4 million. And the majority of that is the difference in value of the drugs. Knowing the significance of him, it was really great result to get him convicted and now to get the confiscation order against him as well and have that benefit hanging over him.
Officers who went through the rows of designer gear in Bomber's gated mansion were astonished at the sheer scale of luxury goods. The drug proceeds had been splurged on luxury and security in almost equal measure. The place was sealed, reinforced doors, bulletproof glass, and cameras covering every approach. Inside was a display of wealth that would rival that of Imelda Marcos. Money was lavished on Moncler jackets, a shoe collection worthy of a Saudi princess, and a watch collection fit for a Premier League dressing room. The list goes on. 30 pairs of identical Armani jeans, Gucci labels, a collection of handbags that a Kardashian would be proud of. This was how the cartel's profits were laundered, through spending sprees and rolls of cash handed across the shop counters in Harrods. The definition of ill-gotten gains was hanging in wardrobes in his luxury mansion in Tamworth. Cartel members know the risk of peddling drugs across international borders, but when officers start rifling through their six-figure wardrobes, confiscating their luxury watches and handbag collections, it does hit a nerve.
A lot of criminals are quite happy, getting imprisoned for the crime is part of the job. But when you actually say, now we're going to take all your assets, that's when it gets personal, because that's the reason they're committing crime, is for their lifestyle. That's their job. And we are then taking it all away or getting an order to take it away. So that's when it can get quite personal.
The court's inventory of Bomber's lavish spending gave an inkling into just how far removed he'd become from the day-to-day drug trade. He oversaw the delegation of smuggling routes, of finance and of enforcement to trusted lieutenants. The proceedings in Ipswich Crown Court didn't just mark the fall of Thomas Bomber Kavanagh's personal empire. They also signalled something far bigger. Bomber's collapse marks the first true fracture in what had long looked like an impenetrable underworld machine. The cartel's chief strategist, the man who kept its international supply lines running smoothly, had finally been taken down. Seen as untouchable for years, his sentence for importing tens of millions of pounds of drugs was a major shot across the bow of the Kinahan cartel. And just 2 weeks after Kavanagh's sentencing, the United States raised the stakes.
And so today, the United States Department of State is pleased to announce a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to the financial disruption of the KTCO or the arrest and convictions of its leaders, Christopher Vincent Kinahan, Daniel Joseph Kinahan, and Christopher Kinahan Jr.
You've been listening to an extract from our 9-part series, The Science of Fear, about the rise and fall of Daniel Kinahan's right-hand man, Thomas Bomber Kavanagh. To listen to all 9 parts, log on to crimeworld.com and hit subscribe.